Hey guys, I'm Adrienne and welcome to my channel, The Minimal Approach. Today we'll be doing something a bit different. I'll be exploring the cost of sewing and most importantly, asking the question, is it worth sewing your own wardrobe? We'll jump right into it. So before we even get into this, I suggest that you think of what you buy right now. What are the clothes that you own? And by that I mean, how much do you spend for clothes right now? If your clothes are currently coming from H&M, Forever 21, Joe Fresh, the clothes you bought probably cost you less than their real price, so your price's expectations for clothes are lower than probably what they should be. And if you have no clue what I mean by that, I highly suggest that you go watch my What is Fast Fashion video. I will put a link in the description box. Just to make it quick and summarize, most of fast fashion clothes are made in questionable environmental and ethical conditions. So basically, the other part of the price that you're not paying while you're buying fast fashion is probably paid by the dressmaker in a foreign country where she's probably working to a very low wage and in some terrible condition. But if you're already buying some clothes from local designers or that are super high quality, you probably have a taste of what clothes really cost. And then your expectations are probably more realistic towards what it costs to sew your own wardrobe. But beyond the cost, just quickly, let's figure out our motivation as well. What is it that you're interested in? I know for a lot of sewists out there, it's to get the perfect fit because they're unsatisfied by what they find in the stores. I know for others, it's to find a special style, something that's very unique and that they cannot find in clothes next to them. I know for others it's that they just hate shopping, so they would do anything to avoid that activity. So I guess the first thing is just to figure out what are your expectations and what are your motivation to get you going sewing your own wardrobe. Then another important thing is, what do you wear on a basis? Are you working in an office where you need to be more chic, or are you working from home where you can just be as casual as you want? What is it really that you're looking for? First, to find that information, I suggest that you go in your wardrobe. You have all the answers there. Just try to find out like what's cohesive and what are your favorite pieces? What do you wear the most? What are you looking at right now and you're just like, I could live in this piece of garment every single day if I could. And why is this related to the cost of sewing an handmade wardrobe is that if you keep doing and creating pieces that are super elaborate dresses, party dresses, cocktail dresses, and just so many dresses, and you have no events to wear them, well, they're actually pretty expensive dresses because you wouldn't buy them if you'd go in a store. But they're just so appealing in the sewing community, and I feel like most of like beginner sewists go through a dress phase where they just want to get them all done, and it's super okay, but that makes the price of an handmade wardrobe kind of more expensive because you have all those pieces that you did just as a hobby or because you really wanted to do them and you never wore them, so they're pricey. So that's the link to the what do you need in your wardrobe and what are you wearing and what do you feel comfortable in too. Another super important part. Look at the fabrics. Are they knits? Are they woven? Are they stretchy? Are they print? Are they solid colors? Are they stripes? What type of stripes? So I really think one of the most important things is to kind of do like an inventory of our wardrobe and see like what I love, what is like has been sitting there for 2 years and I didn't wear it once. Like obviously you shouldn't do a piece like that because chances are you won't wear it. Okay, so let's get into the cost part. The cost for making your own wardrobe varies a lot, I believe, depending what piece of garment you're doing. So I will be like just describing the cost for one t-shirt, a simple t-shirt. Let's jump in. If you're okay with like synthetic fabrics and just whatever you can find at your local store, prices for fabric can vary between $8, $80 is very expensive, but still there's some fabrics that are $80 a meter, and fabric is sold by meter. So let's go with, for this example, let's go with $8 per meter. I have to say I buy most of my fabric at between $6 and $10 a meter depending on how special it is, and you also need to include like shipping if you buy fabric online, but I didn't consider this. I just said let's go with $8 a meter for fabric for a t-shirt. You would probably need 1.2 meter for a t-shirt. Let's say it's kind of long and you have sleeve, of course, so that would be $9.6 just for the fabric, and you'll need thread. So let's go with 1/8 of a spool, and it's probably be $3.5 a spool. So let's say we have 43 cents of thread. And in my case, I also needed a sewing machine because I didn't get one for free. Or I could also go like in those, you know, those like community workspace kind of where there's sewing machine, and I think that would be cheaper. But anyway, so I bought my own sewing machine, and I will divide the cost by how many pieces of garment I did. So I did about 35 as of now, so that would be 600 something divided by 35, so $18. So my sewing machine is costing me $18 every time, well, for that 35th shirt I made, because the price just gets lower every time. And you kind of also need a desk, and you need lights, and you need a chair and everything. My boyfriend generously gave me this standing desk. I love it. If you don't know what a standing desk is, it's a desk that can move up and that can move down. So that's super practical because I can actually just be sitting when I'm sewing or cutting. I move it up. Anyway, so that's a very cool desk. So I didn't pay for this, and I didn't pay either for the lights. My boyfriend gave it to me as well. But I did have to buy a chair. The chair was $90, so I split this by 35 pieces of garment. That's like $2.5 for this 35th make. You'll also need needles, pins, measuring tape. You'll need a marking tool. There's plenty. A seam ripper, especially if it's your first piece of garment, and you'll need all of that. I didn't include it because I don't know, I didn't know how to just come up with a price, so I didn't want to create something that's bullshit or whatever, so we'll just go with that. Just now the cost for this t-shirt is $31, so you can see it's getting quite pricey. And you'll most likely need a pattern. I know in the beginning I self-drafted some patterns. I'll also link one of the videos below. I did one of how to self-draft your favorite t-shirt. I think this is a very efficient way. I really love that. But you actually need to buy the paper to trace your favorite t-shirt on, so there's a cost. There's always a cost, so I will just add a pattern for $10. Obviously, there's some major sales for the big 4 companies that you can get a pattern for like $4 or less. Also, most of my patterns my mother gave to me or my mother-in-law, so really, like with patterns you can really get away with something cheaper. But then if you like indie patterns, and I do love indie patterns, sometimes they're more than 10, probably they're like 12, or some of them go up to $18 for one pattern. But now that they're PDF, you can really reuse them so many times because you just print them again. If you, let's say you did adjustment or you want to do one for your mother, I don't know, you can really reuse those patterns, and they get very non-expensive at the end because you did many pieces of garment with it. So I'll just stick with my $10 for a pattern. And depending on what's your vision of your sewing hobby or job, I would say, you might actually need to pay yourself. So I went online, and in Canada, the minimum wage in June will be $13.85. So it will take minimum 2.5 hours to go shop for fabric, cut off the pattern, cut the fabric, and just put everything together. Minimum 2.5 hours. So I would get paid $34.63 for this t-shirt. Now the cost is actually $75 for one t-shirt. Okay, so this cost is not super precise, I agree with you, but still $75 for one t-shirt that you can find at H&M. Super cheap right now. We also need to keep in mind that this cost will get lower every time that I'm sewing because I divided the cost of my sewing machine and my chair, and I will most likely have many patterns one day. Right now I have many anyway, but I'm buying less and less patterns because I have the ones that I love and that I know how they fit me, and I made the adjustment previously, so I'm just reusing those patterns a lot, right? So that cost is getting cheaper every time I'm sewing. And since I consider my sewing practice as a hobby and it makes me feel so good, I won't pay myself because I just love to sew for myself. It makes me feel so good. I connect with my inner child and it's amazing. So I won't pay myself, and I won't consider the cost of my sewing machine and chair because that's an investment for me. Like, I mean, I could do any other hobbies that I would need to pay for, so sewing is mine. So for just the fabric and the thread, that t-shirt cost me $10, and that cost is very low since I know I was not forced to do it, so it was made ethically. And yeah, I would just need to get more info about the fabric though for the environment, because I know like the dye of the fabrics is polluting a lot, and sometimes it's not in a closed circle kind of like processed, so many like toxic produce are just dropped in nature. So I would need to get more info about that. But it's very tough to get info about fabric, don't you think? So in the case of that t-shirt, there were no notions, so that reduces the cost as well. I just bought everything to do a Kelly Anorak raincoat, and all the notion cost me close to like 25 or 30 bucks, I think, so it can get expensive. Now, I can only speak for myself, but to conclude, I just wanted to say that for me, sewing is one of the best hobbies I've ever had because it makes me more creative, and I feel so inspired of like dressing up in the morning, and my style is much more defined now that I'm sewing, and I love it. For me, it's a very good hobby, so it's totally worth it to sew your handmade wardrobe. Also, I have a deeper knowledge of like the fashion industry, and I want pieces of garment that will last in time. The skill that I developed helped me connect with a community of supporting women that is just incredible. So it's just worth it. Just for this sewing community part, like you gotta start sewing. I think it's really worth it to find what you love and to define yourself a little bit more. And yeah, so the only downside for me of like learning to sew is that it's pretty addictive, and now that I'm started, I just can't stop. If I'm not sewing, I'm looking at fabric, or I'm like thinking of my wardrobe and I want to do a capsule wardrobe again, and I'm just exchanging about sewing with new like sewing friends, and it's just, yeah, it's quite addictive. But it's a good thing because it's making you feel so much creative. I actually went shopping for you guys, so I went to Carrefour Laval and I looked up few kind of like fast fashion shops, and I wanted to compare the cost for regular pieces and fashionable pieces that we could compare with our t-shirt that cost $75 if you look at it with all the cost and you give me a wage, or $10 if you just look at the fabric. And I also have a cool comparison with Everlane where they shared the cost for their clothes. So let's take a look. First off, I went to Zara and I really wanted to compare with a regular t-shirts, so you can see those are $10 and they're very simple. They're made in Morocco and in Bangladesh. The quality was not super, the fabric was extra thin, and you can see that some of the seams were a little bit less durable. Let's go to Forever 21. Here you can see a cute jumper. I think this is very not expensive. Here you have a little jumper in a knit fabric. Very not expensive. And here I just wanted to say that you can do a very fashionable handmade wardrobe, because I was just looking at these shorts and I just did one pair that's so similar to this one, and it's the Jali pattern pull-on pants. That pair of shorts was $29. It cost me like $10, so I was less expensive than this pair of short, and that pair was made like in Bangladesh or something, so mine is made ethically. And it's a total coincidence, you guys. I went there for this video and I saw all these clothes and I was like, damn, I'm like fashionable, all my clothes are here on my handmade wardrobe, so I was happy. I was looking at these skirts, and that skirt is so similar to the one I will do for the Upcycle at Home challenge by Amy Nichols Studios. Okay, so let's go to Everlane's website. So you can see that they have very good basics, and they're made out of linen, and most of the time they're made out of natural fabric. So let's just scroll down. You have lots of basic t-shirts here, and the hair cami is very pretty, I believe. I'd love to find a similar pattern. I love their scoop neck too. So let's just choose one. You can see also they do include information about the factory where their clothes are made, and they're made ethically, so that's a very plus. I kind of love Everlane, except for the fact that they have leather, and as a vegan I'm kind of against this, so that's the only downside. So let's look at, this is the important part. I got a bit carried away, but this is very interesting. They're actually very transparent about the pricing of their clothes, so you can see that t-shirt cost $3.6 of material, so which most likely include the fabric. And then the hardware, I guess that would be the thread, because there isn't a lot of hardware in this t-shirt because there's no zipper, there's no button, and so yeah, probably the thread. Then the labor, it costs $3. I think this is not a lot, I would say, but anyway, That's $3. The duties, because this is coming from China, and then the transport, because it's coming by plane probably, or maybe by ship, I don't know. I would say that that's probably one of the difference between H&M and Everlane. H&M was selling that t-shirt for 10, and it probably cost less, but I mean, you can kind of see how much the labor must have cost and how much the fabric must have cost. It was cheaper, absolutely, because they're still keeping a margin. So I think Everlane, what they're doing is they're really like kind of opening our eyes that if you pay something $25, but probably it'll only cost 10 for them to make it, because they need to do marketing and everything, and they have a margin. So that was very interesting. So when I'm like actually sewing a t-shirt for $10, like in the example, well, that's the real cost, because I'm not putting a margin over it or something. So I'm really getting what I paid for. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking. I'm pretty sure like people have very different opinions on this, and for some people shopping is just therapy, so I think we need to respect that as well. And actually, I have no judgment. Whatever you do, I just wanted to share this kind of like information for you guys, because that's a question that is asked to me a lot, like how much it cost you for you to do this and made something. And it's actually a bigger question than this, because you saw like all the inclusion and exclusion. Do I include my sewing machine? Am I paying myself? Just before the end, I wanted to do like a recap of my week and what my sewing plans. So what's coming up next is a bralette tutorial, and there's the Kelly anorak video that I will do while I'm still sewing this. I just started, so I think that will take a long time, but anyway, because I really want to do a good job. I just finished some shorts. I think I will do kind of a roundup of my latest makes, but I don't know about that yet. But anyway, so there's the bralette, the Kelly anorak, and I'll also do a video about the easiest pants I've ever done. Only 2 pieces of fabric. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel so far, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next sewing video.